Hello, my name is Kirsten Sander. I work at the German Environment Agency in the section called Competence Center on Climate Impacts and Adaptation. And today I want to present to you the German Climate Preparedness Portal and the corresponding networking approach we implemented 2 years ago. But first of all, let me introduce to you the Competence Center on Climate Impacts and Adaptation within the German Environment Agency. Here you can see our different tasks that are structured into 4 sections. On the one hand, we are involved in policy advisors for the German Environment Ministry. So mainly we develop the German adaptation strategy for the ministry together with other ministries. We undertake a lot of research in the field of environmental research, but also socioeconomic research. For example, we do the vulnerability assessment and the risk analysis for Germany, and we also develop and research on a mix of different measures and instruments for climate adaptation. And we also research on different kind of formats for good communication for climate adaptation or for communal projects. We also provide a lot of information on climate adaptation and climate impacts, and we implemented diverse networking and participation approaches, which I will talk about later on. The German Climate Preparedness Portal was launched 2 years ago by the federal government, and the aim of the portal is to gather all kind of climate information services and climate adaptation services on one spot, and to have this kind of a national MICA portal that guides users to the right information they are looking for in order to implement climate adaptation on the ground. It also has information on the national adaptation strategy and on the corresponding documents. And all the services that are included in the portal are either provided by the federal agencies or the state agencies, so the provinces in Germany, or by non-governmental partners that develop services in cooperation with state agencies. The CLIFO portal target groups are quite diverse, so it ranges from local actors in municipalities to actors in different kind of regions or provinces in Germany, but also we want to address private companies or civil society organizations that want to engage in climate adaptation. Here you can see the homepage, the landing page of the portal, and on the next slide you see the structure and how the services are presented. The users guide themselves through different kind of filter functions and a search function. For example, you can look for services that deal with heavy rain or heat waves, or that target specifically municipalities or private companies, and then you get a search result. And when you choose a service, you will be directed to a short profile with the basic information and information on the provider, and then you were redirected to the provider's website itself. So the portal is quite of an intermediate between all services and specific provider websites. All the services you can find there are quality proven, so they are all up to date. They can be accessed on a free basis. There's no restriction in the usage, and they can all be applied within Germany. And the portal itself is accompanied by 2 networks. One that is managed by the Met Office in Germany, that rather deals with the climate information services and the data. And the other one I will talk about now is the ClimAdapt user provider network that deals with the climate adaptation services. So how did we develop the portal? the main goal was to really address user needs. As I said, we have a broad range of users. We want to address a lot of different users, and therefore it was a main goal to consider the user needs from the beginning on. And in the conceptual phase, we did a broad needs assessment and had online questionnaires which were filled out by more than 1,000 people from different action fields and different stakeholder groups. We also had more than 30 expert interviews that gave us good insight into what the potential users are looking for in terms of climate adaptation services and how they want to be guided within this portal. And on this basis, we developed the structure and the content and design of the portal. And we got constant feedback by the interministerial steering group of the portal and by stakeholders we invited for a workshop to discuss the proposed structure and the content of the portal. After the portal was established, we did a testing phase and a usability test with different users, ranging from less experienced to really advanced users, to see if they really find what they were looking for on the portal and how that can be improved. And in the operational phase now, we also implemented a feedback tool to have constant feedback on the background of the users and on their satisfaction with the portal. And this is also supported by the network I will talk about now, which is called the ClimAdapt User Provider Network, that supports the portal and supports the implementation of the services. So coming to the network, it exists since 2 years, and it has about 50 members from different kind of fields, so from the national level, but also from regional and local authorities. There's also some business associations and NGOs and companies in the network. We meet, as you see here, we meet in person and virtually 2 to 3 times a year. And the main tasks are to get to know the different services and identify the gaps between the provided and the needed adaptation services. And this should improve the general landscape of climate adaptation services. And the group of people also discusses how services are used and how this usage can be increased. And another task is also to have a look at the CLIFO portal and give feedback and support the development and support the content and the structure of the portal, but also the awareness of the portal outside the network. And the network is structured as we have some meetings that are specifically for a close group of network members, and there we discuss more things about the CLIFO portal as such. And we have meetings that are open to everybody that deal with specific topics. For example, here you can see some topics, how municipalities can deal with heat waves, what kind of tools exist to deal with heat waves, how to engage users better in developing adaptation services, or what kind of tools exist to communicate climate adaptation, what kind of networking approaches are helpful. And the last meeting we had was on what kind of climate services exist for monitoring and evaluating adaptation measures. So the network and the portal go hand in hand in bringing the climate adaptation services to the users and into the implementation phase. And now I'm going to finalize with some challenges and lessons learned during the last years that we have that we have experienced. So one challenge that we often hear is that there is insufficient legal obligation for climate adaptation in Germany. That goes hand in hand with the limited capacity of local actors. So there's too less time, too less staff and money to set up an adaptation process and also implement measures, and of course also to have the capacity to continuously exchange with other user groups, and also this is a challenge, of course, for us as the network initiator. Within the network, it's also a challenge to have a user engagement process that meets the different needs and interests in climate services of all kind of different actors and different regions in Germany that is so different. And finally, it's also quite challenging to identify if the platform has an impact, if it makes a difference, and also if the network is successful, if it reaches its goals. So we are approaching this challenge by having a constant evaluation of the network meetings, and at the moment we have kind of a broader evaluation of the networks and want to find out how satisfied the network members are with this process. Coming to the lessons learned, we learned a lot during the last years. So one thing that was interesting is that the regular exchange and also the constant feedback we have with this group creates a kind of commitment for the people to support the portal, to be kind of a multiplier for the topic itself. It's also interesting that the people really prefer open formats and a limited pre-structuring of events. So with this they can exchange and network in a more open space. So we try to consider this by preparing the events. And we also learned that if you have pilot users that can talk about their experience in using a specific service or implementing adaptation measures, it's really helpful for less experienced users to get this implementation knowledge and to be encouraged for own measures. And this year, of course, we learned that the mix of real and virtual meeting is really something valuable, that people really appreciate virtual meetings as something that that adds to real meetings, where you also have a different kind of atmosphere and exchange, but the mixture of both is really desirable. I want to conclude with a quote from a paper we wrote last year that says, "User integration cannot be limited to a single step, but rather needs to be considered as a continuous process." And by this, I want to stress the circular approach I presented also in the beginning, to have this continuous exchange and feedback with users to improve your services, your portal, and improve the implementation of adaptation on the ground. So thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the discussion during the meeting.